Hey there, Brandon. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Man, thanks for having me.
Excited to talk about all things EAs and algo trading. We've known each other for several months by now, introduced by our common friend Vic. So it's always cool to connect with like-minded individuals.
Oh yeah, man, dude, Vic's the man. I'm glad. Dude, I love your videos and everything you're doing, man. Your products are great, and I'm a fan.
Well, I think the same thing about you, and it's always good to connect with one of the real ones. So, for our audience, I'd love to maybe start us off by chatting a bit more about your trading background and what led you to being an EA developer.
Oh yeah, man. Well, from trading, I've always been just interested in economics and all sorts of things with that, and I also like finding unique ways to make. I don't believe in passive income, but I like finding unique ways to make money from afar. And the more of those I can have running together, I think it always is a smart thing to do financially. And so trading was kind of just one of those things that, as far as using algos and even manual trading too, it's something that I can do while I'm, in parallel doing something else. And I like the challenge. It's hard to do, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of knowledge. And um, yeah, I'm fascinated by it on the good and bad days. So
And did you start off with manual trading and make your way over to EAs, or were you algo trading from the start?
yeah, started off not started off in forex, just investments, stocks, things like that, which I still do. And actually I was, early on I was into mining crypto as well.
Right.
And that, as far as the technology side, I'm fascinated by things like that. And kind of going back to passive income, it's like mining. When I started that, it sounded like it was passive income, but it wasn't. But it was money I could make in parallel while doing something else. And I think that's really what I didn't always have to be there physically,
Mm.
and so with algo trading, it was kind of one of those too. It's something that I can do without having to physically be there. And so, yeah, so it started with stocks, and then, forex is a I like I like that it's not as it's not as one directional as stocks is. It's a totally different mindset. And each week, depending on what the calendar looks like, it's a new week and it's a new day, and it's never the same trade. And um, yeah, I just, like I said, and when you can combine that with technology, it's definitely an interesting journey.
I totally agree. Like Forex, you also get the whole macro component, and it's almost like you're playing amateur macroeconomists and seeing like all the
Yeah,
major geopolitical swings and following the dynamics of global markets is really interesting. And
yeah,
something which I've always really admired about you is that you're one of the first folks to take real AI and apply it to the Forex EA world. Because with the boom of ChatGPT, it seemed like everybody was trying to stick in some sort of AI or pseudo AI in bots. And you were really the first that came across to take LLMs and have them interface in like an actually like pretty groundbreaking way with Forex EAs. So I'm curious, like, what sparked the idea for Mean Machine in the first place?
oh well, first, thanks for that. So I think just AI in general is interesting. And for a while, especially years ago, before AI was what it was, anything that learned we called AI.
Yeah.
Even machine learning, like neural networks we called AI, and which they really weren't. They were machine learning though. They got a, they learn weights and they adjust and they're dynamic. And I think the big, the interesting part, kind of, if I can start with that, it's like in forex, you're never making the same trade, and so it needs to be dynamic, and there's got to be some sort of adjusting component.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, to do it well. Otherwise, with coding, you're having to code static rules. And but also the thing is like it's an algorithm. So what can it do that I can't do? And if I want a manual trade, I'll manual trade. But it's an algorithm, so it's a totally different approach. And so, but and then enter Chat GPT, and I think one of the first things a lot of people did is like, show me or tell me or whatever. How can I
predict price? Where's the NASDAQ going to be tomorrow? Tell me, AI.
Yeah, even before you could attach screenshots to an image to ChatGPT, which 3.5 and stuff like that. 3, you couldn't had none of that. Didn't even have web search or anything, and so it was just asking it questions, and it sounded right. It sounded intelligent, and it was intelligent. I mean, nowhere near what we have now. But and then I saw some products that were available that said they had it, and I was like, well, it's possible. So I want to. It's got to be useful. I mean, medical offices are using it, attorneys are using it, institutional traders are using it. And businesses are using it, corporations are using it. It's got to be a thing to this. So I, just in MT5, all due respect, it's a pretty clunky program, but I wanted to find it. First it's like I've got to make this, connection to that, and I've had Mean Machine for maybe 3 years now, and it had just a machine learning component, and I called it Mean Machine AI, and it wasn't really. I mean, now looking back, it wasn't AI. At the time, though, it was to me, and so it was a mean reversion, and with a recovery mechanism, and that had a neural network, and it worked really good, and so it kind of started there, and I've had some users that one of my guys in my group named Conrad, who's been with me since the early days. As it kind of progressed and I started seeing some products that said they use ChatGPT and stuff, I was like, man, if I could add that with this, which is already good, I think I could make it incredible, And oh my gosh, if I knew all the work it was going to take from that day to today, I don't know that I'd do it again, to be honest. But
figuring it out as the first guy would have definitely been pretty challenging. And like, I also really like what you were saying about no trade in the future is exactly like a trade in the past, and I would absolutely resonate with that. And I think one of the big flaws that developers make is if you try and rely too heavily on TA-based systems, it's very easy just to overfit to past data. So combining that, but also with the fact that you have a logical underlying strategy in all of your bots, which is the mean reversion system here, and you're implementing kind of AI on top of that to be more dynamic and to adjust to the future. I always really thought that approach was smart because it's similar to my philosophy in that you can't overfit, but at the same time, you can't purely rely on the AI either.
No, you can't. And I had to learn that, quickly. And it was, once the honeymoon phase was over. And so, seeing the first request, seeing the first response was like kind of like the moment, I was like, well, it works. And so now I just need to add it in, integrate it. And it was like, the hard lesson was just because it's AI doesn't mean you can just send it data and it's just going to be accurate. It's a tool, and you gotta, I've had to learn a lot about prompting, how, I've had to learn a lot about hallucinations. I've had to learn a lot about all this stuff, to make it really solid. And I think that was like That was very eye-opening to me. And but the thing is, it's like it's the same on the desktop. You can just ask it a generic question. It's gonna sound convincing. And but the ones that really get some really good use out of it take the time. And this is like businesses and institutions. They've got their craft down to where they've really unlocked what these models are capable of. And with anything, it takes time to get there, I think. And but and it taught me a lot about me, like just as a person, hearing another perspective that's not. It sounds crazy, but it's not human. The better these get, I'm like, wow, I never thought of that. Or these responses that you see, you're like, that's a great angle. And I think that's part of what makes it so valuable is when it is good, it's not human. And so it's giving like an unbiased, data-rich analysis that is quick. And whereas for me, when I'm manual trading, I may talk myself out of it, or I may talk myself into it, or I spend too much time convincing myself that the trade's gone because I need all this information, the calendar, what the predictions are, what price action is doing, all this stuff that really you do need to be an educated trader. And AI, can take all that data and it can search the internet and it can do all these things really quick and even more. And so that to me is like, well, that's what AI is supposed to do. It's supposed to save us time.
It synthesizes the information and it doesn't put an emotional filter on it. So to your point, like we can also consume the information, but then we bring our own biases, we bring our own kind of emotionality and fear and greed, and that can sometimes prevent you from taking action despite the fact that you should, your system is telling you to do something, the news is telling you to do something, but you still have those like emotional limiters. And that's why I like algo trading more broadly, because you don't have to worry about any of kind of the psychological impact. But something else I wanted to ask you is like now with AiQ, Mean Machine, and now Syna, like you're almost building an ecosystem where you have different bots, you have tools. Like I'd love to hear more about kind of your vision for your product line, because you're doing some really groundbreaking stuff. And like, what's the bigger picture in terms of how you see your products evolving?
Yeah, well, man, thanks. So for with Syna, initially, it was like each of them were kind of like a long term. You can only do so much at once, and so but with Syna, the thing was to have something that is an eye in the sky that can handle dual tasks. It's an EA. It's a notification, but not a notification like it's sending you just alerts. It's like AI is watching the world and watching whatever currencies for you, and it's doing the work for us, all the stuff that we would have to do. And so going back to like parallel income, it's like I can go and do whatever I'm doing, or I can spend time with my family, and I've got AI on my side working well for me to like, I'm just, it's a quick notification, or if it's a quick thing that I can look and take a look at, and it's, and I've got the predictions, the probabilities of what the calendar is going to do this week. I've got all the information I need to make a call. And but then it was like, I've been studying Agentic AI, for a while. Since it's I guess it's fairly new as far as like, well, it's brand new considering the AI world. But it's becoming a lot more popular. And, with Agentic AI, it's, I'm so fascinated with something that can learn. And, this time last year, it's not laughable, but it kind of is. I remember when I set up Mean Machine to initially, look at its past trade history.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was able to learn from that. And I thought all you need to do is prompt it, provide the history, and tell it to do better. That's not how it works, unfortunately. And so, an agentic system is one that takes data, but you got to think like AI doesn't think like. And what I say, like what I've learned about myself is like, what do I actually learn by looking at my own trade history?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really learn from that. So like, of course, AI wouldn't just take basic info or data like that and think you could just do better.
Okay.
And so with Agentic AI, the idea is like, instead of being like a commentary, which really what we're doing is we send a prompt, we send all the data, and we get back a response, a very, very good prediction, which I think Mean Machine and AiQ are probably some of the best at that. But it's like, what if, how do I set up an agentic system to where it's learning? And by learning, I mean, the AI can hypothesize, it can weight decisions, and it's actually got calculations where it is, in a sense, it's not weights like a neural network, but it's weighting and adjusting weights based off of probabilities, hypotheses. It's running scenarios before it comes out with a prediction.
And when you told me about Syna, I thought that was fascinating because you almost have like the mothership, which is an agent, and it's supervising the other AI powered bots, but you have that kind of central brain which is learning. So maybe for the audience's sake, like how would you define agentic AI versus normal AI, and like the most shortest like definition that you could think of?
Well, I mean, to me, it's less than Terminator. It's one notch less.
Okay.
And so it's making so Syna, AiQ and Mean Machine now by default on the same computer send their data always to Syna, mm-hmm. and Syna as well. So Syna uses its own, and it's not just trade data. It's a whole stats list of data, relative data. So, but then Syna takes all this in. It's not just, hey, just repeat the wins, don't repeat the losses. It's taking in all the news data, it's grounding its responses, it's using all the past data. And the thing is, it's because my focus is, the thing is, tomorrow is never in the data. Mm-hmm. So I want to be as a good trader, I want to be a really good predictor. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not talking like Nancy Pelosi predictions where I want to be really, really good at that. I'm like making an educated prediction of what could happen. Mm-hmm. That's what trading is. And so what it's doing is it's truly like being what AI, I think, really is what we think it is. It's making a plan moving forward. It's seeing what has happened. It's waiting and calculating and doing it. It's literally a living, I say living breed. It's not living, but it's like a really smart learning system.
So practically for traders, what this means is like actually like nitty gritty. Syna is adding almost an additional layer of filtering over Mean Machine and AiQ using an ultra sophisticated like learning mechanism. And for a trader, this should result, I imagine, in more wins, less losses. Or is that kind of the idea behind it?
Well, yeah, ideally what you've got is you've got a system, like you said, it's an ecosystem that's feeding each other, that is literally learning and improving. And not just, and I say we hear that all the time with systems, but this is literally learning, and it's thinking, it's running scenarios, and then it's doing better and better. And the cool part about this is, so you can connect Mean Machine and AiQ together with Syna, and you can use AiQ and Mean Machine as agents of Syna. And so it works across MetaTrader platforms. So you've got Syna just on one MetaTrader, and Mean Machine and AiQ on separate MetaTraders. But they are, even by default, without doing that, like I said, they're always sending their data to Syna. But when you connect them as agents, they are now receiving the data from Syna as well. And so they are able to still use their own strategies internally, but with the data learning from Syna. And then it's now you're feeding, you've got Mean Machine, AiQ, and you can have another Syna just as an agent sending to the master. And it's just fueling each other. But, on the efficient side, it's you're only paying for one API cost now too. So you could, I mean, if you had a machine that could handle it, like my computer could probably run, this one here is my coding computer. It could probably run 10 MetaTraders, but I could run 10 EAs with the off of the one Syna. And like for example, I'm running 3 right now. And last Friday I did my costs all together because I've been running it like this. And my costs on X, this is with like web search and everything, I had to look, it was like $1.98 for the entire day.
Yeah, that's great. Like one thing which I think we should probably dive into kind of the MT5s now to show people through, but that's a really great takeaway. And Vic was telling me about this as well, that like the cost savings, if you can be more efficient using models is huge. And what you're saying is like essentially having Syna acting as the agent and being the primary interface to the models so that you don't have to almost double dip. That seems really clever. And at the same time, having a system that's learning from its own trades and learning from the trades of all of the EAs in the ecosystem. I view it almost like having a trade floor manager who's able to actually kind of supervise the different traders, kind of get feedback from the different individuals on the desk, and then improve the team's performance overall. But I think now let's hop into the actual MT5s so we can show everybody what we mean with some nice visual representations. Okay, so now I think we should all be able to see MT5s up in front of us. And really, I think this illustrates quite well what we meant by ecosystem. We have Syna up here on the screen, but also AiQ and Mean Machine, all in 3 separate terminals. And how you showed me to set this up is that Syna is acting as like the mothership, and it's effectively controlling the other EAs. But practically, I'd love for you to walk me through, as well as the audience through, like what exactly are the terminals doing? How are the EAs talking to each other? And most importantly, like what are the benefits of this for traders, and like what are we actually accomplishing by this?
Yeah, so I mean, first, I'll start in backwards if that's okay. With trading, we need to be diverse, which spreads our risk. And a common mistake, it's way too common, is traders use so many EAs on one account, and they feel like that's a portfolio, and it's not. And you want to spread your risk across multiple accounts, all with their own margin, in my opinion, and get them off of each other and spread your money out. Whereas, you've got some, and change your strategies too. So you've got some on some days they're going to do well, some are going to do not as well, but then it's going to balance out. But you've got your risk is no longer all your eggs in one basket, where if on a really bad day, you've lost everything. And honestly, the number one rule of trading is never trade with money you can't afford to lose. Not because you're going to lose it, because you could, but not because of that. It's because you want to be in a mental headspace to not emotionally lose control. And so, never make a permanent decision based off of temporary emotion, And so with that, it was, I'm with my users, I'm always telling them that, it's just, you've got to spread out, use multiple accounts, split your deposit up, and diversify. And that's kind of like, obviously, along with that, API cost is overhead. And so if each of these AIs have overhead, I've got to expand quite a bit. But if I can not only have them work as a system together that learns and feeds each other, but if I can drastically lower my API costs, that's a win. That means now we have a franchise with only one rent. And so with that was kind of the idea. And I need it to work across MetaTrader platforms that can't be on the same platform. You've got to be able to spread out. So they communicate. So when you initialize Syna, it will create a link, and it opens the door, and then you enable Syna agent on Mean Machine and AiQ, and they are now accepting that connection. So even without doing that, like I said before, Mean Machine and AiQ send their data for Syna. So the more you have running, Syna's it just benefits that. But if you want to connect them, you can you can take from Syna. And so that, again, that's the why is just diversity, lower cost, and honestly just smarter trading.
The portfolio approach is very interesting because I find that one of the hardest things when like pretty much advising clients is also how to stack portfolios, because the thing is like because we're trading something where you have effectively almost unlimited leverage, you have as much leverage as you could ever possibly need. Sometimes people will say, oh, if I can risk 2% per trade on one strategy, I can put 6 EAs in one account and risk 2% per trade. But what you don't realize is each EA might only have 10% of the capital or 20% of the capital allocated to it. So sometimes like I run some accounts with multiple EAs, but you have to always adjust your risk downwards knowing that. Or you have to spread it out. So your approach here, I think it's helpful for a lot of people because it's making it as simple as possible. If you only have one bot, one account, which is what we do for props, because it takes out a lot of the portfolio management complexity. But I also see that if you have 25 MT5s like I do, and they're all running AI models, like that can get pricey, particularly if you're using like some of your models, they check intraday many times. So this is a great way to kind of consolidate all your terminals into like one master prompt, which seems like it would save a boatload of cash.
Oh yeah, oh man, it's just the cost alone. Now, the thing is too, they're very efficient, but each EA on their own they're sending a large amount of data, and you have to capture the market. So small accounts, which is common with AiQ and Mean Machine, they could have a hard time if it's a small account getting ahead just because of the cost alone. That's just the reality of it. Big accounts like Vic was talking about, he's like, man, he trades real money. So he's like, man, the cost in this is very affordable. They make me a lot of money. But, for traders with smaller accounts, it's a huge benefit because now you can reduce your overhead and get way ahead.
And talk to me a bit more about the agentic approach too. Like, let's say I have 25 MT5 terminals running various like copies of AiQ and Mean Machine. If I feed all of that data into Syna, would one Syna act as like a master agent and look at the trades on all of those 25 accounts, or how would that work practically? And
yeah, so they all of those will always send to Syna.
Okay.
And so the more you have, it's a lot. Well, it'll ramp up data faster because there'll be more trades, but it's all relative trades too, and so it's not just random stuff. It's relative to the group as a whole as to how they operate and the why and the philosophy and stuff. So, but it's yeah. So if you had 25 EAs, 24 of those are sending their data to Syna. Yeah, that's a lot of data. It's just better for everything. The more the better, the more examples it has. And again, it's receiving stats, it's receiving what worked, what didn't. It's when they went in, why they went out, what was the conditions when they entered versus exited. Was there news? What's the upcoming news? Develop a hypothesis, and and that's a very, very just shallow description of what it's doing, but it's running scenarios, and it just sends back out. And it's just a big, or a very, very large but very significant data loop, just a loop of agentic learning. And so there's different types of agents, agent learning. There's bound agentic, which is more rules, but it's learning. And then there's adaptive agentic, and that's what Syna is, and it's adapting to, because again, you already said it, that tomorrow's gonna be a different day.
Yeah,
so it has to adapt, and it has to adapt. So what the great part about this is, it's not just good for one market phase. And the thing is, like, I had to kind of define what even Mean Machine was, because it was really never mean reversion. Because Syna, or not Syna, but the AI is looking for the trend, or what's the market doing now. And so essentially it's just not, it's just waiting for a pullback.
Fair.
And so I had to again, kind of going through this, I was like, well, what's it really doing and why is it working so well? And I mean, and that's why. So what's cool about AI too is it adjusts, and especially with Syna and being agentic, it adapts to whatever phase we're in, which is amazing.
Especially with like recently with a lot of market regime changes. And something else which you pointed out to me, which I thought was really interesting, is Syna does not only monitor your EAs, so AiQ and Mean Machine, but you can put my EAs, you can put Wim's EAs, you can put many developers' EAs into it. And I know Vic, for instance, has had a lot of success combining our longbow EAs with Syna, because we hold trades for 16 hours, 18 hours, and sometimes like there can be a pullback end of day, and having something which can monitor and say, hey, the market is tanking, get out, or can potentially alert you to that via Telegram, that I found was really interesting. So maybe talk a bit more about like how would one go about, like if you're running 35 different EAs from different developers, would the same functionality work? Would it learn from that too?
So it won't learn from those.
Okay.
But what the idea is a lot of traders, I mean, a surprising number of traders they just watch their MT5. And they don't really know what's going on, or maybe they do a little bit, but they really don't know what the world's doing or the why of what we're trading, and they're just either just price action alone or whatever. And so Syna is the window to all of that for us. But as far as using it with other EAs, it's really cool. So there's the assistant side of Syna, and you can do two things with that. You can use it to check the market. So probably what Vic is doing is he's in a trade, probably on gold, and he's in it, but he wants to check the market because the market changes every hour, every minute. Stuff comes out, economic news comes out, things happen, and so it is something you want to keep an eye on. So you can automate that to check as often as you want. And while you're watching your trade, you're like, okay, yeah, we're still good. We're still, gold is still going up. The sentiment still looks good, or maybe it's I'm negative a little bit. I got a little drawdown, but it's overwhelmingly bullish. I'm just going to hang on to this. I'm not going to kill it. No reason to. And I think that's the thing is a lot of traders cut trades too early.
It's just
because they don't know. Oh, it's so common. So you're just handing money to the market. I mean, you need to have the information to know when to stay in and when to really get out. And that's so as far as that too. There's the volatility now. There's things that happen all the time that are not on the economic calendar. Mm-hmm. And so the moment that happens, you get an alert. It's either could be due to the economic calendar or not, if someone said something or whatever, and get a notification. So if you're in it, check, I'm good, or oh my gosh, something's happening. I'm not. I'm getting out of this. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, and your Telegram alerts are really interesting. So I think for people's benefit, like you can monitor the trades of any given EA by giving the comment to Syna, and at the same time, it almost keeps track of like impulses. If you see gold tanking for no reason, like it will let you know. So that's very
key. Thanks. So with other EAs or manual trades or whatever, if the EA has a comment, you just need the assistant on the top of the assistant portion of Syna, you just need to match the EA comment to that. And so as far as Syna, so if your EA is 1 2 3 4 5, change the Syna comment and the assistant to 1 2 3 4 5, and then you can now enter that symbol included in the assistant symbols, and you can just hit assistant on the chart, and it will now the AI will check that position. It will check the market, and it will check the news and things that are coming regarding that position, and it will recommend if you're going to adjust anything, adjust the TP and SL levels to this. You can modify there on the chart, or you can kill the trade that they're on the chart easily. Do whatever you want to do, or you can go and just use the assistant, and you can just check the market on that relating to that position as well. It's pretty versatile as far as what you can do.
No, it's really cool. I see a a lot of applications, even from people I've been chatting with. So maybe now, just to like not make our chat too long for the viewers, if you could, you're working on a lot of really interesting things. I'd love to see maybe if you'd want to share something with the community, like what do you think that would be, just to kind of summarize our conversation today. If something new that's coming up or something that you'd like people to know, like what would you like to share with our community?
Well, I think that, the cool part about not only, as far as connecting them all and running EAs as agents or whatever, but it's good to know that each EA can run its own strategy. It doesn't have to be locked to Syna's strategy, the masters, to do that. So you can, as far as diversity, you can, have mean machine still set to using the AI recommended take profit and stop loss levels. And you can have, AiQ, a different strategy. You can have one that's running a prop firm, sit with prop firm settings if you want. You can do whatever, and you can still diversify. It doesn't have to be just a carbon copy of that. It's actually not that at all. And so I think, ultimately it's like if you're running a portfolio, or if you're running multiple strategies and multiple stuff, this is, to me, a really, really, really smart way to do it. And it keeps you well informed. It educates us on the market. And, knowledge is power, and that's a generic saying, but it's true. And so the more we know about what's going on and where our money could go, and the less effort we have to put into doing that, I think it's a win.
No, it's a great philosophy, and I do think that anybody who's running many accounts could absolutely benefit from Syna, particularly if they're running a whole basket of strategies, or if they're just busy folks who have businesses to run, who have families to take care of. They don't want to be staring at MT5 all day. So having like an uber sophisticated trade manager, which also has like agentic AI capabilities, is extremely interesting. So I really appreciate you taking the time to explain it to me today, as well as our audience. And I'm sure people will have a lot of questions for you. Where's the best place to reach out to you if they have any questions about Syna or about any of your other products?
You can find me on Telegram, at Brandon Autry, but you could probably NQL5 too. Just shoot me a message. Those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for our chat, Brandon. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.